Hey everyone, I want to share something cool with you. I'm on a break from Landmark Forum right now, and we are learning about identity. How do we form our identities as in our children and in our growing years, and how that impacts our life. Now, those of you who don't know what identity is, it's a very important subject in psychology. It's about how do you define who you are. And when we define who I am, that directs who we are. It directs our life through that definition, which means that there are people who are very hardworking, workaholics. My best friend is a workaholic. I am to some extent. I'm just giving you a random example. I'm not saying that's a self-identity, but I'm saying, you know how you have different kinds of people. Some people are very workaholic. Some people are just very humorous. Some people are very adaptable. And how that you see that as they go through, no matter how old they are, as they go through different situations in life, they're always doing that. That's what they know about themselves as best. And even though that's not the exact definition of identity, I'm just trying to paint that picture of we can identify people by saying we can pick out one or two or three qualities about a person and say, yes, this marks that person. Like, I'm a rebel. I love being a rebel. I love doing things that are going to break the rules of society, right? And create something new out of it. So I like to challenge old cultural beliefs. I like to challenge that. So those of you who know me, you would know that part of me. Or you would know that I struggle in my teen years. Those who knew me, like Anisha, if Nupur, and all my friends at that time, you knew that I struggled with saying no. I couldn't draw boundaries. I could not say what I wanted to say. And in psychology, as also in Landmark Forum, which draws from psychology very deeply, we are, it's coming from a scientific point of view. It's talking about we studied human behavior, and this is what we found. And psychology says that when you're born with a clean slate, right? You're nothing. And then as you have experiences based on your upbringing and environment, you become something. And you become something based on the genes that you got with you. Right? So when we are learning the genesis of identity here, we are learning that something happened in your life, which psychology will also draw on very deeply, that created that identity, which in the spiritual world we also call it archetypes. In life coaching also we call it archetypes. So I am a big fighter archetype. I have to be the fighter. I have to win over hurdles. If there aren't hurdles in my life and I don't feel like I have something to overcome as a challenge, I'm going to feel incomplete. Right? So there are so many different types of archetypes, survivors, persecutors, victims. Schemas is what we call in psychology that we have within us as humans as to survive, to get through life. Now, the conflict here is it's so neat that when I understood astrology, when I studied astrology, I taught myself astrology, thanks to all the opportunities and gurus I had. When I look at charts, when psychology says that you were born with nothing and something happened in your life to create that identity, guess what? I bet that my astrologer friends like Carrie would agree, when we look at charts, I could say that this is going to be the identity of this person looking at the chart, the birth chart of the person at the moment when they were born. If we have the correct time, place of birth, the date of birth, if we have all of those correct, I could tell these are going to be the struggles of this individual. This is going to be the identity of this person. And this person is going to go through life using these survival skills, using these archetypes. So that's where I find that psychology has its limitations and science has its limitations when they're saying that you became something after you were born. Well, in astrology, which is very spiritual science, very well proven, when I look back at my chart, now I totally see it. I totally see my struggles of either being too aggressive or being too submissive in all my growing years. And now I'm learning to make healthy boundaries, to be very assertive, which is the in-between, in Landmark and in psychology, they would say, oh yeah, that incident happened in your life, but guess what? It was already written in my stars, in my chart, when I was born, that these are going to be my experiences and this is what I'm going to become. So what I want to ask you is, I'm just curious. I'm curious. I love psychology. I'm curious to know about human behavior and how you think. I'm curious to know how many of you believe, first of all, in reincarnation. How many of you don't? How many of you believe that you were born blank, as a blank individual, and you became something based on, everything you became was based on the experiences you had in this birth? Well, my perspective is very deeply rooted in not only the karma theory, but also the spiritual theory, where we carry characteristics in our soul through several lifetimes. That's why we have certain talents that we have that are just very natural to us, like very natural, what we call as God's gift. Like children, being good with children is my God's gift. Like nobody has to teach me how to be with children. All my friends will say there's magic around you. When there are children, it's my territory. I know it. I got the game. But science, math, teaching, I would have to train myself how to do that. Astronomy, totally out of my range, right? So there are things that we come with, talents that are inherent to us, which science says genes. But those genes, science is limiting it to having passed on from your parents. What I am saying from the spiritual point of view, that's been with us for over several life generations. And that's shown by the Ketu and Ketu's nakshatra in the astrology chart. And when I look at charts of friends, I'm not a pro astrologer, but I'm good enough to look at a chart and tell you what your talents are, what is the overall career direction, marriage direction, etc. But I've looked at so many friends and family, and they've come back to me and they said, that's bang on, Rima, that's amazing. Because so that is enough proof for me to say, these are your struggles. I haven't known the person very well. I've looked at their chart and I've been able to nail it down. So I have enough evidence of saying that I can look at a chart and I could say the same thing that science says, this happened to you because you were a human in this lifetime. But when your chart was made when you were born, when you were just not a few minutes onto Earth. So I'm just curious. I'm throwing this question out. I want some responses. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no judgment here. I want you guys to just share with me what are your views. This is an open, safe platform. I don't want any judgments or any negative comments towards each other's opinions. It's safe and okay for you to express your opinion, your perspective, or your belief. What are your beliefs? I'm just very curious. I want to know what do you believe in terms of birth, reincarnation, karmas, personality, how it's formed, psychology versus spirituality, astrology. Just share me a few views. Thank you. I'm going back to my class. Bye.